I'm going to attempt to very quickly run you through this Practice A&R number 1 to kind of demonstrate how to go about completing the A&R and to review some concepts along the way, maybe illustrate a quicker way how to get things in JASP or how JASP may look for you with I've updated my version, so this should be the most up-to-date version. So let's run through this. You'll note that there is no submission option for completing this, as this is really meant to be an optional review for you. I'm not assessing this. This is for you to work through, gain some additional knowledge and understanding, practice your skills, and hopefully apply it to A&R 1, which will be assessed. So this will very much mirror what that looks like, as you, I'm sure, already know. So for this Practice A&R, we're going to save a copy of this PDF file. So I'm going to go ahead and click the download option. And then once I've downloaded it, I can see it's appeared down here. I'm going to close this, just this preview, so I can come back here. I'm going to be saving my answers directly in that file, but I'm also going to need to access the data set, which is here. So we click this and it will open up into a separate tab, as you see. So this is the data that we'll be analyzing and writing our results up on. Note that if you are unable to access JASP, you can complete this form. So it really goes through and asks you about how you would go about running the analyses. And then once you submit, it will link you. I'm just remembering I need to update this. It will link you to the output so that you can access the output without having access to JASP. Now let's go ahead and open up the A&R assignment. This Practice A&R is on pizza prices. So here's our research scenario. A restaurateur, which is a restaurant owner, was thinking about opening a few new pizza shops in Brooklyn. She would like to explore various business trends so that she can refine her business model. For example, in an upscale hipster area, she wants to charge more, and in a working class neighborhood, she wants to set the prices a little lower. She wants to know how to price the pizzas and market her brand, so she decides to look through a set of data collected on 12-inch pizzas sold in various areas. Each pizza was coded for the information described below. And again, I have a link to the data set, which you'll see opens there. And we have the variable descriptions here. So region is the part of town that the pizza was sold in, whether it was a hipster region or working class region. Toppings is the number of pizza toppings. Price is the price that the pizza was sold for in dollars. Temp is the outdoor temperature at the time of purchase, and this is in degrees Fahrenheit. Gender, the gender of the person purchasing the pizza, whether that person was male or female. We only have a dichotomous option in this data set, unfortunately. Time is the time of day the pizza was sold, whether that was lunchtime or dinner time. And rating, the number of stars the purchaser gave the pizza on a rating app on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being not at all satisfied and 5 being highly satisfied. And again, there's the link to the option that I will update. Now, this first question is, again, giving you an opportunity to practice thinking about how these variables were measured and identifying whether the variable is being measured in a manner that is quantitative or categorical. So again, quantitative being quantity or a numerical value, a value that has some sort of numerical weight to it, or categorical, which of course is categories or groups. So, for example, region, this one refers to the part of town it was sold in, hipster or working class. So in this case, it seems fairly obvious this doesn't have any numbers associated with it. So this would be a categorical variable. Number of toppings, on the other hand, is the number of toppings from 0 to however many toppings, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. So in that case, it is a quantitative variable because we're measuring using quantities, how many toppings. Okay. So again, you can go through price. Is that quantitative? We're measuring something on a scale of values, or is it groups or categories? Temperature, gender, time, and rate. I'll allow you to work through those. And then we'll continue on with our analysis by answering the following questions using just short responses here. So what do the cases in the data represent? Well, here it's helpful to go back to the description. Right? So she decides to look through a set of data collected on 12-inch pizzas sold in various areas. Each pizza was coded for this information. So in this case, the cases in the data represent pizzas, and we could even be more specific, maybe 12-inch pizzas, right? But they're pizzas. How many cases are there? Well, here's where we're going to have to start digging into our data, or at least looking at our data. So here we can see, just as described, region, toppings, price, temp, gender, time, rating, zip code. Don't remember seeing that. Keep that in mind. But here, let me go ahead and pull this out, and I'm going to put them side by side. So how many cases are there? Well, remember this top row does not count as a case. These are our variable names. So we're looking at how many cases do we have here. Now I highlighted those by holding the shift button in case you were wondering. And you'll notice that I highlighted all of them except for the first one. Of course, we can look at the numbers. In this case, it's easy to subtract 1 from 51 to get 50. But you can also see that by highlighting it, you can see the count down here in the lower right. Count is 50. So in this case, we're looking at 50 12-inch pizzas. There's an extra variable listed in the data set, not listed in the table above. What is it? I mentioned it earlier. Now, which region had the most 5-star ratings? At this point, it probably, we could go through and we could count, but that would be really sloppy. So at this point, it makes more sense to pull our data into JASP and start working in JASP. So to review how to do that, if you remember, we did this in classwork 3. We're going to File, Download, and we want to download the .csv file, comma separated values. So I'm going to click that, and I see again that it downloaded my file. I am not going to click it here, because if I click it like this, it's going to want to open it in a different program other than JASP. I can already see that based on the icon that it wants to open like an Excel file. So since I want to open it in JASP, I'm going to first open JASP and open it from there. So I'm going to, I think this is maybe off screen. Here we go. JASP. This is the latest version as of February 2023. And here we go. So once I see this screen, it can be a little confusing of what to do. The easiest way to go about this is to come right here to where it says, so open a data file and take JASP for a spin. That's actually a button that will just also open up the main menu, which you can also open here. Okay, but this is like a shortcut to opening data. I'm going to open this from my downloads because I know that's where my computer automatically downloads my files. So I'm going straight there. And I can see, here it is. And here's my data. Now, before I do anything, I'm just going to scan through to make sure that JASP has assigned these quantitative and categorical ratings appropriately based on what I answered before. So I'm just going to adjust any that I see that they're not necessarily wrong, but okay, I think that'll work for us. Now I can go ahead and close out this data that I was working with. We're done. We're done with the Google file, so I can close that one. Sorry, this is an announcement I'm going to be posting. So now I have my JASP here. And what were we trying to answer? Okay, which region had the most 5-star ratings? Now, this is a good one because it allows me to show you a couple of different ways we can go about doing this. And one that I'm not sure we've gone over before. So let me see if I can adjust this height a little bit more. No, okay. So we're going to start by, all of these are going to be in descriptives because we haven't moved on to any of the others yet. So we're going to descriptives. And in this case, we're interested in which region had the most 5-star ratings. So I want to look at ratings and region. So what I really want to look at here is the ratings, right? So I'm going to say, I want to look at the ratings, and I want the ratings split out by region. So I moved rating, the outcome that I'm interested in, you know, the best rating that they gave. I want to know ratings, how does that compare when I split those, the data between those two regions? So you'll notice that what I get here, we get our descriptive statistics. We get the number. So the pizzas, we had 25 in the hipster area, 25 in the working class area. We can see the average ratings, those means. So that mean, of course, telling us sort of that average rating that was assigned, the standard deviation, the lowest rating, the minimum, the highest rating, the maximum. But none of these is telling me which one had more 5-star ratings, right? So while this descriptive statistic information is interesting, it's not answering my question. What I need to do to get that is I can come down to one we've done before, right? So I can go to basic plots, and I can simply make a distribution plot, right? If I make a distribution plot, then that will show me which one has more 5-star ratings. So, for example, I can see that in the hipster area, the 5-star ratings, it looks like there are 6. In the working class area, 5-star ratings, it looks like there are 4. So there are more 5-star ratings in the hipster area than the working class area. This is a little clunky, this way of doing this, right? So let me show you another way. We can also come down, let's close that basic plots, and we'll go down to the very bottom option that says tables. If you expand tables, we can click frequency tables. And we'll see what gets added here is now we can see for the hipster region, the different ratings and how many of them there were, in addition to what percent. Same thing for the working class area. The ratings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The frequency, so how many of those ratings. So we had 3 1-star ratings, 5 2-star ratings, 6 3-star ratings, 7 4-star ratings, and 4, remember I said 4 before, 5-star ratings in the working class area. And the associated percentages. So now we can see quite easily that the hipster region had 6 5-star ratings versus the working class region had only 4. So the hipster region would have more 5-star ratings in this case. Now we're going to do something similar to identify what percentage of the purchasers. So remember in our file we had that gender male female where we could see the person who purchased the pizza, were they male or female? In this case we want to know of this sample, these 50 pizzas, what percentage of them were purchased by females? So we'll go ahead and start a new analysis by again clicking our descriptive statistics, and we'll go ahead and look at gender. Now again, this isn't going to give us anything because gender is a categorical variable. So we can't really describe the values of gender because gender doesn't contain values. It contains categories. So let's go ahead and go down and go straight to this tables option. I'm going to click frequency tables because frequency tables are very useful for when we're dealing with categorical data. Descriptive statistics up here, the mean, median, mode, standard deviation, these kind of descriptive statistics, these are more helpful for quantitative variables. So quantitative variables, we use those descriptive statistics to describe them. With the categorical variables, we'll want to look at the frequency table so we can see, well, how many of each category. So let's go ahead and collapse that, and we can scroll down and now see that there were 22 pizzas purchased by females, which makes up 44% of our sample. There were 28 purchased by males, which was 56%. Of course, they add up to 100%. So what percentage of the purchasers were female? 44%. And were most pizzas purchased during lunch or dinner? Okay, so we'll start a new analysis for this, descriptives. And we want to know time. Lunchtime, dinner time, which one was more? Once again, we're looking at a categorical variable, so we'll want to use frequency tables. And now we can quickly see that slightly more pizzas were ordered during dinner time. I'm going quickly because I want you to do this yourself, not just copying. Okay, so let's explore the variation in pizza prices. I actually want to make this a little smaller. There we go. Okay, so what is the approximate shape of the distribution? And I include a hint here to make a frequency distribution. And if you have a hard time kind of visualizing, then it helps to sometimes display that density curve. So again, we're going to go to descriptives. The approximate shape of the distribution. Which distribution are we talking about here? Well, in this case, we're exploring pizza prices. So we want to take price and move that over. And in order to explore the shape, we're going to look under basic plots and make a frequency distribution plot. Right? A frequency histogram, distribution plot. These are the same thing in JASP here. And if you have a hard time seeing the curve, you can always click the display density curve. But I'm not a huge fan of those because I think sometimes they can be a little misleading. Okay, so we can see here's our shape, our histogram. It looks unimodal. There's only one peak. And I would say it looks maybe a little bit left skewed because it looks a little more piled up to the right. Right? It's more piled up here and it's kind of skewed a little bit down here. That's what I see. So left skewed unimodal, but it's only a little left skewed. Not too bad. And then, okay, so we would describe that here. You could say unimodal, left skew. What is the center of the distribution? So again, here we're going to estimate the center of our distribution using the mean. Why the mean? Well, the mean really represents kind of that balancing point here. And again, we can visually see that it's not very skewed. It's a little bit skewed, not too bad. And so in this case, what the mean does is it really finds the average value, sort of that point that balances out all of the values that we see represented in this histogram. So in this case, we already have it in our descriptive statistics above. The mean is 14.119. So if I was to visualize this down here on my histogram, I would go up to the 14.119. So I'm estimating somewhere around here-ish would be 14 point something. So this around here, yep, that feels about right. That feels like about the balancing point, right? This one's tipping it a little bit, but most of them are here, so around 14 point something is where we balance out our data set. So let's go ahead and put our mean in, 14.119, and since we're talking money, I'm going to do 14.12. $14.12 is the average price of pizzas in this data set. Now, what is the spread of the distribution? So remember, we want to know not only where's the middle, but also, and what does it look like, but how spread out are those values? Are they very, very close to that 14? Like, would it be weird to get a $5 pizza? Or would it not be weird to get a $5 pizza? Is it weird to get a $20 pizza or not weird? Are they all within like $2 of that middle, or are they more spread out than that, like within $5, within $7, within $10, right? So how much spread do we see in this distribution? And we're going to assess this using our standard deviation. So we can see the standard deviation here is listed as 4.184. So what this is telling us is that kind of on average, we would expect to see about $4 of, spread. And that wouldn't be unreasonable. About $4 down, $4 up from that 14. So like a $10 pizza wouldn't be crazy. A $18 pizza is not crazy, but once you get outside that, it starts to get a little less likely. Okay? But that's kind of on average, that's how much spread we're seeing here. So let me put that in. And again, you can put it in terms of dollars because we're talking about the average spread in terms of the value of the prices. Okay. Now, the last question, or the last analysis, we'll start a new analysis, again using descriptive statistics. And this is going to look very similar to the one we just did, but in this case, we now want to examine whether some of this variation that we see is explained by the region, hipster versus working class. So to do that, we're going to start by, again, looking at price, which so far will get us nothing new. What we want to do now is we want to know whether variation in price is partially explained by region. So in this case, we will now split our variable, by region. And again, just as before, I'm going to want to not only look at those descriptive statistics, but I start by wanting to look at the shape. So let me add in over here, under my basic plots, I want to look at my descriptive plots, my histograms. Now you'll see that by adding the split variable, we now have 2 columns for price, whereas before we only had 1 column for price. Here we have the column for the 25 hipster pizzas, the pizzas that were bought in the hipster side of town, and then the 25 that were bought in the more working class side of town. Here we can see, of course, those means, which we'll need to report, the centers. So you want to consider, how do these centers compare? We see a center of 13.1516 for working class versus 15.08 for hipster. So how do those compare? How do those standard deviations compare to each other? And what do those standard deviations kind of tell you? And you might also want to look at those minimum and maximums. What do those tell you about your data set too, in conjunction with looking at these shapes and standard deviation and mean? So for this part, I want you to practice identifying again, what shape would you describe each of these as? Or, you can use a combination of terms. It's not just one term. Where do you identify the center for each of these? Again, using these helpful descriptive statistics. And how would you identify the spread for each of these? The average kind of distance around that mean. How spread out are those data points on average? So you'll consider each of those by filling in the rest of this information. And then finally, what I'd like you to do is to practice trying to communicate what you've learned from exploring this data set and conducting these analyses with others. So in this example, remember that a restaurateur was thinking about opening a few new pizza shops in Brooklyn. She wants to know how to price the pizzas and market her brand. And in an upscale hipster area, she wants to charge more. And in a working class neighborhood, she wants to set the prices a little lower. So using about 2 to 4 sentences, writing in complete sentences, based on your examination of the data, describing what you see and making price recommendations. So write those 2 to 4 sentences based on your examination of the data, describing what you see and making price recommendations based on the goals of this restaurant owner. And please include at least one data visualization to help illustrate your results. Now, you can type up your response in here. it might not be formatted great. Sorry. And then you can add pictures. I think I need to actually open this from my download folder for this to work. But there should be an option to click this and upload a picture. If not, on the actual A&R, you can always upload pictures in the comments. I may need to make some adjustments, so give me feedback if necessary. And hopefully that helped give you a good review of how to complete this.